Looks like PEAHI is going to be really good for the next 4 or 5 days. And then it looks like that same swell trajectory is heading towards Mavericks. So I think it's safe to say it's going to be like a 10 or 12 day surf bender. And I'm really excited. I've only been over to Maui and surfed PEAHI or Jaws one other time. It was a magical experience. Just kind of barely breaking Christmas a few years ago. But was good to, you know, at least see the lineup. So at least now I'm not going into completely uncharted territories. That being said, a little nervous for sure, as you know, as you should be going to any sort of big wave arena around the world. You know, these places all have their own set of inherent risks and difficulties, but looking forward to giving it a shot, and we'll keep you guys tuned. Here's my nutrition for the mission. You know, it can always be expensive traveling and buying food and all that. So starting to get smart over time. I got snacks for the plane. I got some old granola bars that who knows how good they are. Honey packets, super good for just like instant energy out on the jet ski. You can literally just open that thing up, eat it, and you got like an hour of energy, I swear. Some nuts. This is good for the plane mission as well as like out on the boat just to have. And then I kind of consolidated all these powders. So I've got some protein powder, organic protein here. I've got some layered superfood in there, and I've got some maca, and I got some beets, and I got some matcha latte. So I got caffeine. I've got, you know, this is really good for your blood and for oxygenating yourself. This is really good for performance. All right, day 2 of the mission here on Maui. Sun's not coming up yet, but some beautiful stars, and looks clear, like a clear morning. No wind, just pretty unique for this area. So,
all right, perfect. I'll see you there.
We're getting stoked. We got Andrew. Thanks, Andrew, for letting me stay here.
No worries.
Yeah, my bro. Getting pumped or what?
Yeah, we're psyched, Tom. I think today's gonna be good.
Let's go, baby. Got the boards ready. Tired. Day 3 of surfing Jaws, and yeah, switching to this board, 910, just because I think it's gonna be kind of big, so might as well try something a little bigger. Should be an easy transition though, because it's basically the same template as that board, the 9.2 Strive. This one's a 910, same dimensions otherwise, so should be an easy transition. And we're gonna go give it another crack. Should be a little bigger today. And to be honest, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around this wave. And I've only gotten like 4 waves, which is pretty good. No, shouldn't complain about that, but definitely no like solid ones yet. So that's the plan today, is be patient and try to get a good one.
See the color of your soul. The color of your soul. I can see the I can see the color.
few months, 3-4 months after the big day at PEAHI, the big run, 5 days of unbelievable swell. Probably definitely one of the most remarkable runs of swell I've ever been a part of. And just so grateful to have, witnessed the waves that we did, and, been able to be out there and learn from such an elite crew of watermen and, some of the best big wave surfers in the world. I was a little reluctant in finalizing this episode and in the beginning, in that, I was pretty distraught for a while. You spend all this time, all this energy, all this buildup, flying from Europe to California, quick turnaround over to Hawaii, and you just expect yourself to go out there and do super well, and to have only caught 2 or 3 waves and then just taking the flogging of a lifetime was definitely pretty humbling. But in hindsight, I'm really glad that it happened, because I learned so much from that day, and just so much about preparation, and the fact that you can't really just rock up to a spot and expect to surf it good. I don't care who you are. You need to spend some time and get to know the wave and, connect with the place. And that's really what I learned from this whole experience was, getting there a few days early, really connecting with the wave. That was only my second time at Jaws. So, not having too high of expectations and just respecting the wave and, just being really, present to that kind of swell event. Hard to say though, because I don't think any of us really saw that thing coming. It kind of popped up out of nowhere. I was all the way across the world in Ireland when we saw this thing pop up on the charts, and you never really know what to expect. It had been a few years since there was a big run of swell like that. I believe out of PEAHI, working within that challenge skills ratio, that's really important, when you're trying to obtain these flow states and really being in sync and being in tune with the waves. It's really about being in that challenge skills ratio. And to be honest, I was just a little bit out of my comfort zone and gave it a swing and got absolutely smoked. But nonetheless, super stoked for that experience. And, you always learn a lot more from your failures than you do from your successes. So I think that's the biggest thing to take away is there's no bad experience out in the water. I tell my students that all the time. Every day is an opportunity to learn. Every day is an opportunity to get better. Every day is an opportunity to learn something different about yourself. Dig deep. Thanks so much for tuning in on this episode. Hope you guys liked it. Be sure to check out centralcoastwatermen.com. We run out of Santa Cruz. Waterman lessons, ocean safety, paddling, prone paddling, stand-up paddling, surf skiing, surfing, learning the waterman lifestyle. Catch you guys on the next one.